We're back, Alphas.
We're coming in hot with inspiring guests, witty banter, and colorful commentary for today's veterans and military community. This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Happy Veterans Day, Alphas. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're joined by Eric Tansey, who is a former Army paratrooper and combat veteran turned professional podcaster and comedian. He also served as a police officer in Raleigh on the Raleigh Police Department, if you can believe that, in Raleigh. That's Raleigh. And is the author Raleigh. And is the author of the book, Pig Latin, a seriously funny true story. Eric has been featured in many viral social media skits and then landed an acting part in the comedy series Office Joe. Oh, in case you guys didn't know, the Legion created the modern-day 6-episode television comedy Office Joe, featuring the all-star cast of military-affiliated entertainers and entrepreneurs, written by the one and only Army infantry officer veteran Nick Palmisano. The show covers the challenges that veterans face as they hang up their fatigues and try to make their way into the civilian world. At any rate, you can watch that episode, including Eric in the show, on Amazon, Apple TV, and Google Play. Anywho, it's Veterans Day. Veterans Day. Veterans Day. Bring out your coupons and your discounts.
Where's my hat, honey? Dust off the hat.
I can smell them Applebee's riblets right now. How about you, Joe?
I do love a good riblet.
The riblet basket, bring it on.
A good riblet. I keep the bones in my pockets. That way, if I die, they'll be like, why does he have extra bones?
It's the riblet baskets. He never wanted to give them up.
So today, as my cohort co-host and co-anchor, we're not anchors, but that sounded fun. Stacy said, I don't know what to do with my hands. I know that's not the same movie. I like misquoting. Today is Veterans Day, which means businesses across the nation are offering freebies and deep discounts as a special thank you to veterans and service members. The American Legion has once again published a handy guide to help you navigate your way from free breakfast at IHOP, free lunch at the In-N-Out, free dinner at Applebee's, and even including riblets, and even a late night snack from Insomnia Cookies, which is probably the one that I'll hit up.
They're batter at Insomnia Cookies. They're like,
oh no, what?
You know what could go with this cookie? Red Bull.
I was at IMCON in October, and my coworkers were like, "There's a drink that you can get from Sonic now that has Red Bull in it. It's like a cherry limeade or strawberry limeade, but it has Red Bull in it." And they were like, "It will crank your chainsaw." And I didn't know what that meant till I drank one sip of it, and I was like, "Wow, wow, 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 wow!"
Anyway.
So, but we'll have a link in the show notes on Spotify to our list. But in the meantime, are you guys going out dill hunting today?
Andy and I will be, and Andy's my husband, all you alphas out there who don't know, we'll be going and checking out some of the veterans deals, mainly at the hardware store, so I can shorten my honey-do list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to go to the software store and get some stuff for my
the software store for the softie, the hardware store for the hard-ass lady.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to work in the yard. I got kids for that. But there's some cool editing software that I'm looking at. So you go to the hardware store and we'll meet at IHOP.
Let's get them riblets.
Let's get those riblets.
Or join us at Applebee's for some riblets. But before we do that, stick around and we're going to have Eric join us right after the break.
What's up, Legionnaires and sports fans? This is Adam Marr, American Legion member and Army veteran. I am beyond excited that the American Legion is continuing their tradition of support for the Army-Navy game presented by USAA, the first veteran service organization to sponsor America's game in its 126th year history. That's right, the greatest rivalry in sports just got even more meaningful for veterans like us. We're honored to stand behind the incredible student athletes who are not only competing on the field, but are also committed to protecting the freedoms we hold dear. And through this sponsorship, we're shining a spotlight on our primary mission, Be the One, our fight to end veteran suicide. So mark your calendars, Tune in to CBS on December 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern to watch Army take on Navy in this epic, timeless showdown. To learn more about the American Legion's involvement in our mission, visit legion.org/Army Navy Day. Let's cheer on our teams, support our mission, and show the world what it means to be a Legionnaire. Go Army, beat Navy, hooah!
Eric Tansey is a former Army Scout and Special Operations military veteran who became a cop after service. He joined the police force with a ton of unrealistic expectations, and the reality of the job knocked him down and changed his perspective on everything. He actually wrote a book about it and is here to chat with us today. Eric, thank you for your service. Welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Of course. So like Stacy said, and she just said it, but I mean it. I do appreciate you being here. I'd love to hear a little bit of your backstory about how, what led you into the military. I hear you've got a pretty interesting sort of background story, or I guess you wouldn't be here. So let's hear a little bit about what got you started, man.
Yeah, I mean, not like unlike most GWOT veterans, I was watching the news in my senior year in high school, and of course the Trade Center, the 9/11 stuff. After high school, I was working on a deep sea fishing boat. I was a surfer and living on the ocean, living my best life. I moved out like the minute I hit 18. I got a house on the beach or an apartment, and that was it, man. I was surfing and fishing on this deep sea fishing boat every day, living life, and it was pretty awesome with my two best friends. And one day I was just driving into the dock real early in the morning, and the Battle of Fallujah was playing on the radio. I had like really long hair and stuff, and it was probably the first time I'd ever, because it was the first war that I had experienced as a teenager. I think the Gulf War was when I was a young boy and didn't really remember it. So this was the first live war experience I ever heard, was the Battle of Fallujah in 2004, and or that initial invasion. And so I was like listening to it, and I don't know, man, I just felt like I felt like a waste of life. I was like, here I am going to the beach, getting on a boat with my best friends, and like literally guys my age are here right now. I'm listening to this like crazy stuff, and I didn't know anything about the military. I never thought I was going to join the military. It wasn't really on my bucket list or anything like that. That day I got off of the boat around 3:00 in the afternoon, and there was a recruiting station that I had passed every day. And it was the National Guard. It was the Army National Guard, but I didn't even know what the National Guard was. I'd never heard of the National Guard. There wasn't recruiters out there back then, because I don't know, a lot of people don't remember, but before 9/11 or before the war, it's like, I don't even know if recruiters were a thing. Like, I think that was just like, you did that. I don't know.
You almost had to go hunt them down.
Yeah. And I walked in like covered in fish guts and blood into this like armory, and everybody was staring at me like, what is this guy doing? And I'm sure I smelled terrible. And I said, listen, I don't want to be in the military. I just want to go to war. So like, I don't want to do like the garrison stuff. I just want to do like the minimum service time, and I'd like to just go to war and do my part and then get out. Like, I don't want to be really in the military. And the recruiter was like, yeah, great. Well, we have this scout platoon that's literally deploying in like less than a year. And if we can get you to basic training and out the door, we'll do it. And I was like, all right. And I think that was like a Thursday. I took the ASVAB like on a Monday, and that was it. So I joined the Army National Guard, went to basic and all that stuff, and then deployed. And then when I got overseas, a special operation, an ODA rolled through and was like, we need 6 guys to go with us. And I was one of those 6. And then I didn't know what a Green Beret was. I had seen Rambo early on in my life, but I'd never registered to me that that's what that was.
That's a good documentary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's exactly the way it is. So I ended up going with those guys, and for about 6 months I was with them, and I knew then like that's what I wanted to be. I was like, I want to be a Green Beret. This, like, I can never go back to anything else but this. So I came home, I went to selection, got selected. It was a long process when I got home to get selected because I had to get in like better shape. I was wildly immature though at this time. So now I'm like 20 years old, coming back from Afghanistan, and just wildly immature. Like, my perspective my personal perspective of the military was not like anyone else's, because I was basically went from basic training to war. But like, as soon as I got there, I got put with this ODA that had no rank. I didn't have any responsibility except to play with all of the big guns and just basically go on patrols and pull security. And we went on some raids and got in some like epic gunfights and blew up ordinances. And I'm just like, every day was just this wild adventure. I didn't have any kids or really any responsibilities at the time. So war was like a
foreshadowing.
Joke. Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of a joke, and it was like, I thought for sure I was going to die there. While I was there, I was like, there's no way I'm coming back from this alive. I can just feel it. But I did. I came back. And so I joined and I went to selection and I got selected. And then I went to the Q course and I was just thrown into being with these guys who had Purple Hearts, and they were snipers and Apache helicopter pilots and Marine Corps MARSOC. There was 2 Navy SEALs in our small unit tactics class. And it's just, these superheroes. And I was not any of that. So when I got to small unit tactics phase, which is like one of the longer and harder phases of the Special Forces qualification course, I was so far behind everybody else. It was very difficult for me. And I knew early on that I had one skill that I was good at, and that was carrying heavy things for a really long way. And that was it. I wasn't a good leader. I had no leadership skills at all, right? Because I was the baby on this deployment and nobody knew me. And I was just head down, do what I'm told. And, still this day, I bet you none of those guys remember my name, aside from the pictures.
That's like, the dream, though, in the military, man.
Right. So, now I'm thrust into this small unit tactics phase with all these like guys that are really accomplished and have been in the military for a long time. And I wasn't doing very well, and except for carrying heavy things for a long way. So I was like, well, I'm going to double down on that. People seem to like it when I take people's heavy shit or stuff and I put it in my backpack. It makes them happy. So I'm going to keep doing that. And then every once in a while they would try to give me a leadership role at small unit tactics. And unbeknownst to me, I thought at the time, being in my younger 20s, it's like, okay, well, I'll go to Joe Worley, the certified silly goose. He's probably better at this than I am. And I'll like kind of trade this off. I'll be like, hey man, listen, like I'll help me out with this part of this op order. I'll carry the radio batteries, or, a couple of sacks of 240 ammo or whatever. I'm trying to be politically correct and not offensive.
Oh no, that's okay. I looked the word shit up when you said it, and I'm tracking now.
I was gonna call it this, the sack, what they call it, but I was trying to think of like a nice way to say that. And so that was working out for me, and so I made it all the way through small unit tactics. And they go to the murder board, which is at the end, where they tell you how you peered and how you do all these things. It's exactly the way that they do Ranger School. It's essentially the Ranger School portion of the Special Forces school. And so I get there and they're like, hey, you peered 3rd highest in the class. Like, congratulations. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, this is great. Like, I'm doing good. And they're like, you did this well and you did this. And we took bets on how far you could carry this stuff. And when you jumped out of that one airplane carrying all this heavy stuff, we were all shocked that both your legs didn't explode. And we were actually placing bets on that. And, great job. And I was like, oh, that's great. And they're like, do you know why you peered so high? And I was like, maybe because all those things you just said about me. And they were like, because you're a pack mule. But every time we gave you a leadership position, you pawned it off on somebody else. Why did you do that? And I was dumb and naive. And I was like, because I'm not a leader. I'm a pack mule. Like, that's what I am. I'm really good at that.
Yeah.
They're like, we're not looking for pack mules. We're looking for leaders. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And they were like, but since you peered so high, we're giving you a chance. We don't normally do this. And they don't. Like, if you look at the history of small unit tactics, very few people get a chance to do it twice. Very few. And they were like, if you were to show up on Monday and start over from day one, would you do it? And I thought then, I read enough books at that point that I knew that was a trick question. So I was like, yeah, of course I'd be here on Monday. Knowing there's no way they're going to make me do this. They just want to hear me say
You just did it, and you did well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. I would have said the same thing.
Yeah, so I was like,
we're both idiots.
it gets dumber, more dumber.
Oh no.
So I said, like, yeah, sure. I would definitely be here on Monday. And they're like, great, we'll see you on Monday. Well, at the time they had 2 tents. They had a tent for the failures and the tent for the people who were going on. So I didn't know. I walk out the door and I look at the 2 tents And I'm like, well, do I go to the fail tent or do I go to the I'm doing this again tent? So I just ask. And they're like, no, go to the tent where everybody passed, because you're not going back to brag with those guys. You're going to do this again. So I go in the tent. Of course, you walk in the door and everybody's like, yo, Tansey made it. Well, everybody's excited. And I was like, no, wait, time out. I don't think I made it. And I tell them, and they're like, dude, they're messing with you. Of course, they're not going to make you do this again on Monday. Like, you're just the young guy. They're just fucking with you, messing with you. So I said, that's awesome. That night we went back to Fayetteville. Everybody celebrated that Friday night. I celebrated, but I had this gut feeling that I shouldn't be celebrating. So I didn't really celebrate all that well. Saturday happened and I get an email with a packing list for Monday.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's seeming really real.
There's a chance.
There's a chance. So, now I'm depressed, slightly hungover, and I'm trying to do, repack. And it's just so disheartening to re-pull out all this gear that's shredded and of all these memories of like how it got shredded. And I'm going to have to go through that torture again. And I have to replace that. And so now I'm spending the whole afternoon driving around Fayetteville, trying to buy all this equipment and gear, and I show back up on Sunday. Sunday I check my emails and of course there's no change. And so Sunday night was a real come to Jesus. I knew I was going back on Monday. I knew I couldn't make it a second time. Like physically, my body wasn't going to do it. I think I was like 155 pounds at the time. And, the average weight load was probably 100 to 112 pounds every single day for, 12 to 16 miles, sometimes 20 miles a day, fast roping, rappelling, parachuting, just getting lucky, not getting injured in that, 9-week period. And so I called my best friend and I was like crying and I was like, dude, I guess I'm going to quit. And he was like, what do you that's not going to happen. And he's like, guess what? You're going to show up and you're going to walk until the wheels fall off. And that. So like, stop crying, stop talking about it. Just put your pack on and show up tomorrow morning and whatever happens is going to happen. Like but you're not going to quit. Like that's just not in your blood. Yeah. And if you break your legs, if you break your knees, I mean, that's what you signed up for anyway, right? Like you've always said, you will die trying. So I showed up and they make me the class leader, which is always a captain. So I'm this E4 class leader, and I cannot stress enough like how amazing the people that make it to the Q course really are. Like some of the in the gnarly, like for an example, one of the guys in my class, just one of them, this is just a loose example, was one of the Lost Boys on 60 Minutes. Do you remember the 60 Minutes where they had the Lost Boys of the Congo? When they went to the Congo and rescued those Lost Boys that just were like living in their own children's civilization, hiding from cannibals and stuff. So we had this dude in my class. He was literally shot a bird with a blow dart gun while we were in the field just to like show us he could do it. I mean, these guys are incredible.
You get a sir from me after that, by the way. You ever get a bird out of the air with a blow dart, you're getting sirred or mammed for the rest of the week at least.
Forever, dude, forever. And I mean, the guy's name was like, or something, I can't even remember the guy's name. But it was, it was like this crazy African long name. But, and then we had like we had 2 Apache pilots that I think the rumor was that they had rescued these soldiers and they were told like these Marines couldn't have a medevac. And so instead this Apache like landed or something and the gunner got out and took all the Marines equipment and put the Marine in his thing and they flew off. And I guess they got like, I don't know, like maybe they got in trouble for it or something. But anyway, these 2 guys were in our class, not as Apache pilots, but going through his Green Berets. And so like, there was a lot of, I never really talked to him about that, but there was a lot of, people were like, oh, that's those guys, there was a lot of whispering and rumor mill going around. And so, again, I'm looking at all these guys and now I'm in charge of all of them as an E4 and trying to set up jump masters and jumps and exfil platforms and getting demo and getting bullets and rounds and, planning all the op orders. And I was doing a terrible job at all of it. And I don't think we made a single exfil, in 9 weeks, which, tacks on probably 50 miles more of walking, and so I was really hated pretty much that whole class. And I appeared almost dead last. And so I went back before the murder board and they were like, when you were the pack mule and you weren't in charge, you were 3rd highest in the class. And now you're in charge of everything and you were almost dead last. And they're like, what do you have to say for yourself? And I was just like, this was the best opportunity. And I've learned more in, however many weeks, 27 weeks that I had been there, that I'd learned in my entire life combined. And I just really appreciative of the opportunity. And I was really just pumped that I made it, without quitting. That was the, it was, I got sick. I think I made it through with the flu, and it just everything, I combined. I was just proud of myself for making it. And then they were like, well, if we send you to SEER, can you get somewhere in the middle? And I was like, you're going to send me to SEER? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, I made it. And they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh my. I was like, can I hug somebody? Can I do? And they're like, oh man, you might be the most excited human being to go to SEER of all time. Like, this isn't, so I was super stoked. And so I made it. And then I made it through SEER. And then I was in language school. And I got called out of language school from the CID and the Criminal Investigation Division. And the guys I had been living with were defrauding the government, allegedly. I don't really think what they were doing was, I think they were being creative. I don't think it was defrauding the government. Back then, there was a federal freeze like there is now. Nobody was getting paid. And they had bought a house and were renting each room out for max BAH. So they were making tons of money off of it. But I mean, that's creative on them. But it helped me out too, because I didn't have to put first and last month's rent down. And, I didn't have to have all these background checks and, all this stuff. And it was an easy, so I was appreciative. But again, being young and stupid, I didn't cooperate with CID. And so they were like, look, you're not in trouble. All you have to do is tell us like who you paid and when you paid them, which my response was, you probably have all the checks I've written because I did it all in checks and not cash. So just go back and look at it. If you're a criminal investigation division, I shouldn't have to hold your hand. Again, not the right answer. Very stupid, very foolish. I'm 41 now. I was 23 or 24 back then. And so I ended up getting a general letter of reprimand for being unethical. And I got removed from the course. And, that was pretty much the end. I got to go back to a special forces unit. And
landlords always screw people. Jeez. Sorry.
No, that was kind of the beginning of the end. And I had met my wife at a Green Beret wedding in that time while I was under investigation. And then, of course,
did you know her husband?
No, yeah. It's, you're not too far off on the truth. But no, she was very adamant that she was not going to marry a Green Beret or anything like that. So I made the decision to get out about a year later, and she had moved up to Raleigh, North Carolina. And so I got out of the military, and I was like, hey, remember that guy you hooked up with at that wedding and, bum nowhere. And I was like, you said you would never be with a Green Beret or somebody in the military. Well, guess what? I'm out and I'm here in Raleigh. And she's like, oh, that's awesome. But I have a boyfriend. Like,
whoa.
And I was like, damn. And I was like, well, do you like me still? Like, I mean, do you think like, she was like, yeah, it was awesome. Like, I wish I would have known. And I was like, well, I'll handle the boyfriend. And so, she's like, what does that mean? And I was like, oh, like not that dramatic, but I went to the guy's work. He was a general manager of a restaurant. I asked to speak with him, and I said, hey, look, this is the story. I met this girl like a year and a half ago at a wedding, and we hit it off. We talked on the phone a bunch, and we had a couple of hookups here and there. And, but now I'm out of the military and I'm here, and, we can either cheat on you or like you can, like be broken up. And he was like, is this real?
Is this real life?
Yeah. I was like, there's not much you're going to do about it either. And I was like, you could check my resume, but I promise you there's nothing that you're going to do to stop this. And he was like, this is the most messed up thing. So he called her like right there on the spot. And she's like, I'm so sorry. But anyway, yeah, now I have 5 kids with her. We've been married. We've been together for 17 years, married for 14 of those 17. And,
nice.
Yeah, that was my military career in a nutshell.
Wow.
Outstanding.
What out of it?
Yeah. So then I did the only other thing a C student without a college degree can do, and that's become a cop. And so I became a police officer. And again, as luck would have it, when you have a resume that shows all this military stuff and all of these schools, and you go to the police academy and they don't know, they don't really know. All they see is like all these references to special forces, this, and they go through your combat action badge and they see the big write up on it and everything. And so they had this grandiose thought that you must be Rambo. And so I get there, and of course, they call me SF. They give all this, they make me do all the extra things. And so it was very difficult because, again, the imposter syndrome. I'm not that guy. I'm barely make it through life. obviously. And so then I graduate the academy, which was very difficult. And then I get thrown into the Southeast District D squad, which is this crazy squad that you should definitely have some years under your belt before showing up to. And I'm thrown in the worst district, the worst beat in all of Raleigh. And, I work a stabbing and a shooting like every day of my life from that point forward. And it was just crazy. And I wasn't good at being a cop. Again, it wasn't that I wasn't good. I would have been good as a regular rookie, but when you go into something and people have a huge expectation for you, I'm just a huge letdown,
We call those lateral moves. Downward tilting lateral moves.
So and it just cascaded because you're given responsibility that you haven't really earned yet, and you don't really know what you're doing. And so of course you're going to screw up a lot, and I'm not a quitter. And so I just kind of grinded through it. And eventually, life was so difficult back then that I had to write. And because I wasn't a good writer and I was messing up homicide reports, and the detectives hated me because I was a bad writer and this and that. And so for catharsis, I just started like writing stuff. And mentally it was bad because I was living these extremely traumatic incidents, writing about them in a report, testifying in court, and then writing about them at home while my family is sleeping because I'm on night shift and I'm staying awake on my days off, that it was just killing me. So I was like, I'm going to start writing the funny stuff. And I just started writing about like, I lost a foot chase today. And, some, person threw a beer can at me while I was chasing them. Or, I drove a murder suspect around and helped him get rid of evidence today. Or I tased a woman in the vagina in her bathtub today on accident, and I was just like writing.
Actually.
What's that?
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I mean, who hasn't done that one?
I said, that happened to me last night. I got tased in the vagina when I was taking a bath. I was like, whoa.
All jokes aside, I think that would be like, I don't know if you've ever been tased before. It sucks, but when it's over, it's the most euphoric feeling in the world once the taser stops. And I just thought, like, what if you could get to that moment and then get tased, and then the tasing stops, and then the moment's.
I think there's probably some people in the BDSM sphere that would be really into trying that out.
There's probably a word for that, or an acronym.
Getting the timing right would be the hard part there. But no,
are you ready? No.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm almost.
No. It's like physical EDM.
So that story is really funny, and it is in the book. But she was. Do you want me to tell that story or no?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Alphas, can you tell the Alphas the title of your book and where they can find it, and then share that story with us?
Yeah. So the title of the book is called Pig Latin: A Seriously Funny True Story, and it's one long story that I wrote, and then I pitched over to Nick Palmachano, who's coming off the New York Times bestseller list, through mutual friends. They brought the book before Nick and said like, hey, our friend wrote this, and we think it's really good, and you should take a look at it. And he just was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever read. And then he brought me in for a meeting and was like, bro, I would love to collaborate with you on this and turn this into a real book. And so he got me, a once in a lifetime 1% book deal from Simon Schuster, which blew my mind. And, the book was the #1 release. It's in every Target, Hudson's, it's in Books A Million, Barnes and Nobles all across the country. And it's literally a book of my screw ups. Like it's a self-deprecating book it never was supposed to be a book. It was just me making fun of myself, basically. And the messages I get now are like super funny. Like, hey, do you need therapy? Or like, I would really like to analyze you and this and that. And I was like, the book's over. Like that was years and years ago. I wrote that book like 8 years ago. So, for me, those days are past. But in the moment, it really is just a funny story of lots and lots of screw ups. And then I evolve into a officer of the year. And then I get fired the same year. And I get a life-saving award the day I get fired, and it's amazing and it's epic, and there's no hard feelings there. Had to happen. But the book just the messages I get from people who read the book are way worth anything. I would do this all over again with no money just to get these messages. I mean, 25-year cop veterans, 18-year cops. I mean, cops that are approaching me in the wild and just saying like, hey man, this book was literally the funniest thing I've ever read. And it's, I had my favorite one is this K9 officer called me. He says, man, after 25 years, I did 4 years as a Marine Corps handler, dog handler in the Marine Corps. Then I was a dog handler for 25 years as a police officer. And he's like, when I read your book, I started laughing at about chapter. I never stopped laughing, but in chapter 15, I was laughing, and my laugh turned into a train wreck sob session. I just could not stop crying. And my wife came in, and she didn't know why I was crying. I couldn't get any words out, and she just held me. And it was like the first time my wife had ever seen any kind of like emotional release. And he's like, it was just like all my years of service. Like, I know that this is funny, but we've all lived it. And it was so nice to see it through the lens of somebody else. To know that we've like, those are all like very emotional and private moments. They are funny, but like, it's still personal, and it's hard to articulate to somebody. And I guess the book does a great job of just articulating those moments. And so, that was, one of the most proudest things I've ever accomplished was that book. And again, never thought the book would ever do anything really.
You saved a marriage with your Pig Latin book, buddy.
I don't think I saved a marriage, but it definitely, it's such a funny book, and it's full of just ridiculously funny stories. And the great thing now is, now that the book is out and I see how people respond to those stories, I feel better about them, because a lot of those stories hung so heavy on my shoulders. Yes, they're funny, but like at the same time, they're very serious. I mean, one of the stories in the book that, they're all, the thing about this book is that every one of these stories has a police report or is on the news. So it's not like, a lot of people are like, is this actually true? And it's like, well, I could send you the news article. I could send you the report. You can read it for yourself.
The body cam footage.
Right. Exactly. Which is wild. But, I got in a car chase with this man who just murdered somebody, and I was chasing him, and I'm getting close, and I'm gaining on him. It's really early in the morning, and I hit a gap in the road, and the back end comes out of my car, and I
think
have this
the murder guy
pretty bad crash. And
we lost you for a second, I think.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, you're back now, but you said you were gaining on him is the last thing I heard.
I was gaining on him. Yep. And I had a dip in the road, and I lost control of my car and crashed my patrol car. And it sucks to wreck your car during a pursuit of somebody who just murdered somebody. It's even worse when that person gets off at the next exit, pulls into a pawn shop, shoots the pawn shop owner in the head, takes the keys, grabs a car, breaks into a house, rapes a 15-year-old girl getting ready for school, and then flees to New York. And so in the moment, this is like one of the worst stories of my life, because I was behind him. And if I would have just slowed down, if I would have combat breathed, if I would have done all of the right things, this dude wouldn't have gone on to murder somebody and rape somebody else, ruining lives. So, these were like stories that I had like hanging over me for a long time. Yeah. And although like the buildup is kind of funny and it gets serious, but getting all those stories off my chest and just being honest with everybody, because one of the worst, like veterans, right? Like, thank you for your service. Well, when you say that, all you think about are these like really stupid things that you've done or you did, or the things you didn't do. And you're just like, please don't, like, you really don't know who you're thanking right now. And so like, for me, I really lived that. And after this book, all the people who have like reached out to me and called me to, to give me their opinion on these stories, I put them out there to be made fun of and ridiculed. I thought this book, when it came out, I was just going to be like, wow, you're a piece of crap. Like, you're the worst person on the planet. I was willing to be that guy anyway, because I don't care. There's nothing you could say to me that I haven't said in my mirror to myself ever. So I was like, I don't really care what people think about me. I know I'm a POS. Like, I get it. Like, that's why I wrote the book. Because of all the POS shit I did. But it's not like if you go and look at all the reviews on Goodreads and Amazon, man, they're all just filled with so much love and, man, just the compassion. It really lifted those weights off my back. So I'm glad I wrote it, and so.
I'm glad to have you here, man. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it's fun.
On Earth and in the podcast.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, the audiobook is unhinged. I mean, I highly recommend if you're an audio.
I listened to the sample. Yeah,
it's so fun. It's really funny.
Is it on Audible?
Yeah, yeah, it's on Audible, Spotify.
Okay.
It's really funny, and yeah, right. So the book's not going to make you like love cops or hate cops any more than you already do. It's not about that. It's not going to make you love me at all. It's literally just a tale that I think everybody can relate to. Because we all have like so many screw ups at a new job or like new relationships and new stuff. And, to have somebody kind of just put it out there, like very honestly and very candidly is kind of, I think everybody can just relate to it in some way, form or fashion. Everybody that's read it, including the lawyers that did the legal read, these are like 40-hour reads. So, I don't know if you've ever written a book or done an audiobook, but you write this book and then you rewrite it, and then an editor gets it, and then a senior editor gets it, and then a line editor gets it. And so you're reading this book 25 times after you've already written it. Then you've got to go over a legal read, which they're going to go through paragraph by paragraph, page by page. You have to explain yourself, and then you go do the audio book, and you've got to read every paragraph 10,000 times.
And then you have to do pickups, and then
so much, right? So you've done this book and gone over, and so I did the legal read, 40 hours worth or more, and then Saturday the lawyer calls me, and I was like, oh no, like what could we possibly have missed in these 40 hours? Or are they calling me back to say it didn't pass, the legal read, and we're not going to.
Yeah, you've got to cut out 6 of those Casey Anthony references.
Yeah. And he just called me back and he's like, hey man, I know this is like a little bit borderline inappropriate. I'm not calling you on behalf of the publishing house or of anybody. I'm literally just calling you as, and he put his first and last name out there. He's like, you don't have to talk to me. And he's like, I just have some like insider questions. Like I want to know like what happened here? What was the real story behind this? And what was that? And how did you overcome that? And he was like, man, this is like, honestly, I was like, I've probably done over 3,000 books. And he's like, this is like this book. I can't like, I made my wife read this book and I never tell her to read stuff that I'm working on. And he's like, it's so wild. He's like, I never knew that law enforcement, dealt with it like this, and I was like, dude, we're all, that's the thing. It's like, we're all human beings, cops, that generally we don't have the answers. Yeah. We don't have the answers. We're literally making up whatever's in front of us for the day. We don't know. We're just making it up. And sometimes we do a really bad job. Sometimes we do a great job. Most of the time we just get lucky if it's a great job. But, every single time we are literally just making up a cure. And if it works, it works.
Riding the lightning.
That's it. We don't know the answer to fix your marriage. We don't know how to fix this scenario or solve this crime. We're literally making up. There's no book that shows you how to deal with every one of these little nuances that go into the job. And I think the book
there is really now. It's called Pig Latin.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think Pig Latin just shows you that we're all very, very flawed people who are trying to do something noble. And just like anybody else, man, like just because you're trying to do something noble doesn't mean that everything you do in your life is going to be great and noble. People are very flawed human beings, and, we're all just trying to do our best, and, it sucks when it doesn't work out, and, it's great when it does work out. So, but it's 50-50, honestly.
Well, Alphas, we're going to have the link to the book in our show notes, so be sure to check that out. I want to switch gears for a minute, Eric, because I happen to love podcasts, in particular true crime podcasts, and my husband claims that I'm studying for his murder, which might be true on some days, if I'm being really honest.
He's in grave danger.
Most days, yes. But anyway, you've got a podcast, Failure to Stop. Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit about what, because it's more than just one podcast. There are a number like sub podcasts.
It was a network. It's back down to one now, but essentially how that happened was I got out of policing and went on a podcast, told some funny stories way before the book. This is, because the book just came out this year. I told some funny stories, and it was with a podcast that was attached to Black Rifle Coffee Company. It's a really big podcast. And then George Floyd died shortly after I did this podcast. And so they brought me back on to break down the George Floyd scenario. And so I flew back out and I did, a good review of that. And then they asked me if I'd ever wanted to podcast for a living. And they flew here to me and they built me a studio and set up all the stuff. And they gave me all the cameras and lights and all these things. And then I podcasted full time for them with a guy named Mike the Cop, who's a legend. I think he had like over, I don't know, a couple million, like 5 million followers across the board. Just massive audience. He was the first law enforcement or military influencer ever, like on Vine. And then Officer Daniels was his protege. Like that's Officer Daniels came up, behind him. So Mike the Cop was the first ever like military or veteran police influencer of all time. And wildly successful guy and well known very well through the police community. And they were like, hey, if we could get him to podcast with you, would you do it? And I was like, that would never happen. Like that dude, like he was one of the first YouTube viral people of all time. Like that dude's probably not doing anything. And they put us together on a phone call, and we fell in love on the phone. And yeah, we started this podcast under their umbrella, and we podcasted on that network for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Mike retired and gave me all the rights to the show. And I decided like I wanted to start like a network of other police officers that wanted to get into podcasting. And so we had a sports show with all first responders that ran the sports show, and I ran ads for those. And then we had a comedy show on Monday nights, and then we had a political show on Wednesdays, and case breakdowns always on Fridays. And so I had all these paid, people were getting paid, these other first responders to, be podcasters and things. And that was really fun. And we did live shows all around the country, which was so fun, man, because we'd pack out an Irish bar with all these cops and firefighters, and we'd bring a celebrity with us like Ken Shamrock or Pat Militach, or like somebody, conservative Anthony was one of them. Yeah, like a lot of these big influencers. Kyle Rittenhouse made an appearance. Sergeant Mattingly, actually one of my favorites. He'd be a good one for your podcast, but Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, do you guys remember him? He was the Marine Corps colonel that got arrested for speaking out against the Afghanistan pullout. He's the first one to be court-martialed in like 50
I know who
years.
you're talking about.
And he wrote a leadership book. It's one of the best leadership books I've ever read. But he literally like sacrificed his entire career to kind of expose all the flaws in that mission. And but I got to we had him as a special guest. And so yeah, that's where the podcasting came from. Now as of today, officially, I am the social media marketing manager for Ranger Up. And I get to work with Mandatory Fun Day now, and all those guys making skits and doing all the social media marketing for Ranger Up. And now
We love him.
Yeah, it's great, right? Nick's a great guy.
For sure.
So you're now a traveling homeschooling dad of 5.
Yes.
And skateboarding.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've got 4 kids, and sometimes that feels like that's 5 too many. I mean, I'm literally, no joke, I have in the last 24 hours spent time looking at real estate in Japan.
Yeah.
So like, sometimes you just feel like I could get away if I wanted to, but I'm not going anywhere. It's all talk.
Right.
Now, all joking aside though, like I let things in my life get really crazy for a while. I was not enjoying things. I felt like I was at a point where I was doing so much for other people that I was not making any time to do anything that meant anything to me outside of, I love doing stuff for veterans and nonprofit, but none of it was personal. And I can give for so long, but I realized that I was giving pieces of myself away, and I was running out. And so I started deciding to, add stuff in. And unfortunately, I couldn't drop anything. So it was just like got piled into the mix. Weirdly, writing, music, narrating, dog treat modeling. Despite all that chaos and adding all this stuff in, and me being even busier than I was when I was super stressed, I feel more fulfilled. I'm happier now than I was because some of the chaos is mine. It's like a measure of control over it now. And so for you, it seems like you've got all these things going on. What is your downtime? Like, what is it for you that you get fulfillment out of, other than your family, that gives you that opportunity to sort of say, okay, I can do another year of this, and then we'll reassess. Like what's your point, your soft spot?
Yeah. So for like and most cops and veterans and pastors fall into this, maybe nurses too, where it's like, we're so dedicated, our teachers a lot, right? We're so dedicated to helping everybody around us that we forget to help our own family, right? Like pastors do this all the time. That's why that's like notorious for having like, oh, it's the pastor's kid. You know, like the pastor's kids are always like notoriously effed up. And it's because like the pastors are spending so much time trying to help everybody around them that they don't really help their own family. I fell into the same category when I left policing and started my own distillery, which I owned a rum distillery for about 6 years, and a rum bar. And during that early days, I noticed that my kids were like, you know, I had 2 kids at the time, and the one was like 5, and he was, you know, we couldn't even keep him in a preschool because he was so gnarly. And yeah, I was that guy, and I made a point then that my family was going to be the most important thing, and nothing else was really going to matter. We made the decision to homeschool. My wife and I got really, really close. I took everything that like Jocko and you know, Goggins, all the things that they talk about working out. I just apply that to my family instead of working out, because I had the 6-pack abs. I had all the like the CrossFit. I was getting up at 4:00 in the morning, but my family life was crap. Like I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled by having all that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, like I was on a run, I was on a jog, and I was like, instead of doing this now, like I should be doing this with my kids, or I should be spending every inch and every amount of energy that I give into being an entrepreneur and to being in shape. I just put that back into my family. And I did that. It was the best decision I've ever made. We home birth, we homeschool. We have 5 kids. My kids are fully sponsored skateboard. Matter of fact, yesterday we had a family meltdown because we couldn't figure out which sponsors to make a video for and how we were going to make enough videos to account for. We went out of town for a week because I had to do a book tour stuff. We came home to packages of shoes, socks, shirts. I mean, you name it. My kid, skateboard decks from multiple companies, on our porch. And like our yesterday's stressful moment was, how are we going to make videos as a family to give back, you know? And I was like, man, this is fun. Like what a first world problem to have. And it was great because the kids wrote the scripts yesterday and we were able to combine 2 of the sponsors. We just had like a really great day together, making content and skateboarding literally all day long.
That's fun, man. That's so cool.
But when you go all in and you invest in your children, you know, it is such a load off of your back. My kids are responsible for making 1 meal a day. And so what that has turned into is now some days my wife and I don't even think about what we're going to eat, because my one son wants to do X for breakfast. My other son wants to make X for dinner. And my other son wants to do X for lunch, you know, and they're in charge of grocery shopping.
That's a lot of eggs.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And they're big.
No, you said X. I was doing a word play. I'm so sorry. Keep going.
Spell it out, Joe, means the joke did not land.
Yeah.
Well, we do eat
like a failed paratrooper.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's cool, like investing in your kids. Like now they do everything on their own. They're so self-sufficient. You know, we made the joke that, you know, who was going to take the kids if my wife and I ever die? And my brother was like, bro, like, I'm pretty sure your kids would just raise themselves at this point. Like they're so self-sufficient. And that's really great. So, you know, my biggest thing in life right now is just invest in your children, man, and give them responsibility and be with them and teach them stuff. I mean, my kids, they work on their own dirt bikes, their own 4-wheelers. I mean, they kill their own squirrels. They skin them and clean them themselves. I mean,
I need to get your kids to come help me with my kids' dirt bike and 4-wheeler, man. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, I'll do anything for my kids. Like I don't have to anymore. Like they just do everything, you know. There's also, it took a lot of work to get there and a lot of patience. But man, I'm so happy that I went all in on my children, because now my 12-year-old and my 11-year-old, they could move out. Honestly, right now they could move out. They would be okay. Yeah. You can follow them on Instagram. They're gnarly.
Oh, nice.
And it's like, we'll be on these shoots. We'll be on these shooting commercials, or, you know, they've gone on a lot of podcasts. Ryan Sheckler took them to Pennsylvania for a week. They've skated with Richie Jackson and Tim Pool, you know, from Timcast IRL. And they do all these things. And almost every time that people are always like, dude, I totally forgot I was talking to a 12-year-old. And like, you know what I mean? Like we have some crazy conversations today. I was like, I have to stop myself and be like, yo, this kid's 12, because like you can talk to them, you know, they're so, you know, into the culture of things. It's like, it's hard to, it's crazy to think that they're only 12 and 11 and they've had the life experiences that they've already had. But yeah, I mean, I could put them on a plane, the two of them today, and fly them to California, and I would be okay. I'd be like, they'll be fine. They'll figure it out.
Nice. Well, good on you, man. Freaking killer.
Eric, you're amazing. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Alphas, we'll have Eric's social media handles in the show notes, and be sure to connect with him on social media. You can follow his kids too, apparently. And we'll have those links in our show notes as well if you want to do that. Don't forget to pick up a copy of Pig Latin digitally for your e-reader, or go old school and get your paperback copy. I'm going to actually listen to it on Audible. So I'm
It's
going
so
to
worth it.
get
Audio's so much better.
downloaded right now. Is there anything that we haven't covered, that Eric, that you want the Alphas to know about?
No, I like being a part of the Legion.
Love it.
Not something I ever thought I was going to be a part of in my life, but being able to hang out at the Legion and just the community, and it's I hated being a part of when you're a business owner and you have to be a part of those, like, I call them mafias, but that's not the real word.
Like the Rotary Club?
It could be the mafia
like the
as well,
Rotary
though.
Club. Yeah, the Rotary Club. Yeah, and what's the other one? It's the Rotary and Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those things suck so bad for me. And literally the American Legion for me is like, it's like the Chamber of Commerce and Rotary, but it's full of like-minded individuals that are veterans, and I don't have to deal with all the same crap. So I like the networking capabilities, hanging out, talking. Like, it's so much more meaningful at the Legion than it ever was for me at, like, the Chamber or the Rotary. And I've been so happy with being a part of the Legion, and I'm stoked to be on you guys' podcast, and it means the world to me. So thank you guys.
Oh man, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, we've got everything in the show notes here, and if you need anything else, feel free to reach out to us, brother. And thank you so much for visiting us today. Alphas, please stick around for some scuttlebutt after the break.
This year we have a golden opportunity. No, make that a red, white, and blue opportunity to do something truly special.
That's right, Commander. This year America is celebrating its 250th birthday.
And the American Legion family will be leading the nationwide celebrations.
The American Legion Family USA 250 Challenge is a year-long celebration honoring our nation. You can participate in the challenge by choosing one or more of the three categories.
The three categories are community service, mental wellness, and physical activity.
Whether you are doing one, two, or all three categories, you are making a difference in the lives of veterans and their families.
Visit legion.org/USA250 to learn more and register for $30. For your registration fee, you will get to choose a commemorative tech shirt, and your donations support the American Legion Veterans and Children Foundation.
Be a part of what makes our nation great.
Help us celebrate America.
Join us in the USA 250 Challenge.
Welcome back, Alphas. We're changing up the scuttlebutt this week. Since this episode is dropping on Veterans Day, we're focusing our scuttle booties, all our scuttle cheeks, on things that mean something to each of us.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be sincere as I say scuttle cheeks.
You just can't, Joe. You're just so full of it. You can't say but without laughing.
I know. I can't.
Anyway, yes. This Veterans Day, I want to encourage you to share your story of service, or sit down with a veteran in your life and ask them to share theirs. I have dedicated my post-military career to documenting veteran stories through my Veterans Portrait Project and my PBS show, After Action. And as y'all know, I'm also on Reddit reading other people's stories. So, of course, I took to Reddit to go down the rabbit hole and see what I could find in terms of veteran stories on my favorite platform. And there are plentiful amounts of stories there. And I've just picked a couple of them that really tugged hard at my heartstrings that I want to share with you in honor of Veterans Day. At Paul's Reddit username, which is such a clever name, he said, "My friend John was a Marine." By the way, Paul probably doesn't know this, but once a Marine, always a Marine. So I'm going to fix this for him. My friend John is a Marine, formerly. He was in Da Nang and also fought in Huey during the Tet Offensive. Those are the only things I remember specifically, but one night John was on sentry duty and he saw someone sneaking into camp. The VC were always sneaking in and causing trouble, so it was a serious problem. John caught the guy, and the guy tried to run away, so John shot and killed him. It turned out that it was the barber, the camp barber, a local guy who cut hair for all the Marines and who was popular and well-liked. Maybe the guy was actually a VC undercover and was up to no good. Maybe he was just sneaking around for other reasons and was a really good guy. But he was dead, and he's dead now. So there was no way to know. And John went without a haircut for a month or two. One day, a colonel saw him, like colonels in the flagpoles often do, and started yelling at him about his appearance and asked him why he didn't get a haircut. John replied, "Sir, I shot the barber." John told me that story with a hearty laugh, but it was the kind of funny but not really funny kind of laugh that you do sometimes when telling a story like that. John also added that he thinks of the guy whenever he gets his own haircut. He sort of dropped that little comment in the end, and like it didn't mean much, but of course it had a big impact on me, which I'm sure it did on him too.
Yeah.
John told me that story 30 years after the war had ended. I thought about how many haircuts he'd gotten in the past 30 years and how every time he sat in the barber's chair, he thought about the man he killed. That's war. It's not all the big terrible stuff. It's living the rest of your life not being able to do something simple like get a haircut or brush your teeth or eat a hamburger without being haunted by a memory. It's pretty compelling.
Yeah.
At Monster 6 replied to this user, "This is a good example of what being a veteran is like. It's sad, but it's very true and very near the good end of what a combat veteran can expect. I dream of my buddies who didn't come back and have moments like those described here. The occasional nightmare, I consider myself lucky." At Toiva shared, a close friend of mine was a U.S. Air Force SAR. I come from Massachusetts, and at the time, we had a very large Vietnamese population influx. Well, he got to talking to a Vietnamese guy who just started working at his shop. Since they were of age, they started talking about the war. After some time, turns out that the other guy was shooting at my friend as he was getting a downed pilot, and he was shooting back. Best thing was they laughed about it now and proceeded to go and get shit-faced drunk to celebrate that neither of them were really good shooters, and that straight up saved both their lives. They had remained friends until my friend passed away. That's pretty incredible. And here's one more story for you. At The Dude Abides 46, another one of my favorite handles, shared, "My dad did 2 tours in Vietnam, and one of them was during the Tet. Decades after a Vietnamese family moved into our town in the early 80s, and the ugly racism came out. My dad not only shamed the town for their actions, but fronted the money to the family so that they could open a restaurant. It's still open today, and when I go home to visit, they have no idea who I am in relation to my father. But there's a huge photo of my dad with his Tommy gun in Da Nang in 1968 with the words on the photo that say founder inscribed on the frame."
It really ties the photo together.
Yes. There are a ton more anecdotes, of course, but please go onto Reddit and check them out. I'll have the link to this thread in the show notes. But while you're there, don't forget to follow us, the Tango Alpha Lima podcast on Reddit. Joe, what do you got?
So this Veterans Day, I want to encourage you to support a veteran-owned small business. After all, Veterans Day isn't just about getting a free meal or mega discount. I think it's safe to say that most veterans are looking for a hand up, not a handout. They want to be of service, to have meaning and purpose. So many go on to start small business themselves. And what's more, they want to affect positive change in their communities. If not involved directly, many veteran businesses owners improve their communities by donating a portion of their sales to support various community improvement missions. I have no affiliation to these people, but I had a friend of mine tell me about a place called the Wisconsin Meat Company. And if you write them a letter with your order telling them that you're a veteran, he'll send you a letter and a gift, like an extra, some different type of jerky to try or something like that.
That's nice.
And it's just like, that's really cool to do that. And, as a small business to be able to take the time to write. He wrote a handwritten letter telling me that his son had served. It was just a really sweet. So anyway, that's my meat company now, but not mine. I don't own it. I'm just saying, like, when I want jerky.
Well, you did say you weren't affiliated with
Well,
that.
yeah, I'm not affiliated outside of I've bought meat from them 3 times and sent some to somebody else. But that's why this year I encourage you to celebrate Veterans Day by supporting veteran-owned businesses. You don't have to limit your support to one day a year. You can consider buying your holiday gifts from veteran-owned businesses. Try to prioritize hiring a veteran for your next home project, like pressure washing or re-roofing. Hire a veteran turned plumber for your unexpected backed up toilet. Stacy, I'm just joking.
I know, it happens all the time. It's the cheese. And
They call her Thunderbutt. And leave your beloved pet with a veteran-owned kennel. And hey, if you need someone to do a voiceover or a book narration, I'm available. I can do that. If you need help finding a veteran-owned small business, you can use sites like VetBiz or veteran-ownedbusinesses.com listings. And here's a great example I found of a veteran small business owner who's out there making it happen, baby. The KC Cattle Company was born from the battlefield, not the boardroom. After serving with the 1st Ranger Battalion, Patrick Montgomery returned home carrying more than gear. He carried the weight of a brotherhood in the memory of those who didn't make it back. One of them was his brother-in-law and fellow Ranger, Staff Sergeant Jeremy Katzenberger, who was killed in action in 2011. That loss became the fuel for a mission bigger than himself. I just want to say being motivated by those who didn't make it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And being able to do things in their honor, whether it's adding them into a song, adding them their initials into a book. My characters, 2 of my main characters are Tuwan and Fox. And I was with Tuwan Fox. And a lot of people don't even realize that because, it's not, the character's name isn't Tuwan, it's Tuwan. Mm-hmm. But finding ways to honor people is so great, and what this person has done is just incredible. This Mr. Jeremy Katzenberger must have been a heck of a guy to inspire this guy to start an entire cattle company to honor Jeremy's legacy. But he's created meaningful work for veterans, produced some of the highest quality beef in America. What started as a way to find purpose after service has grown into a calling to lead with values, to work with integrity, and to deliver something real in every bite. KC Cattle Company started with no land, no cattle, and no playbook, just a relentless drive to build something meaningful. And in 2016, Patrick Montgomery traded his Ranger uniform for work boots and set out to create a first-generation cattle operation from the ground up. With no ranching background, every skill was learned the hard way through trial, error, and sheer determination. Fences were built by hand. Lessons came from early mornings and long nights. The result, a herd raised with purpose, precision, and respect. This ranch is a tribute to fallen brothers, a gift to family, and proof that excellence isn't given, it's earned. Mm-hmm. Every day on this land reflects the values that shaped us: discipline, resilience, and a commitment to doing things the right way. What do you think about this, Miss Stacy?
I mean, I think this basically epitomizes every veteran entrepreneur out there. And look, even if you don't know something, you can always learn it. Look, This guy didn't know anything about ranching. And he was like, I think I'm going to have a cattle company. Let's just do it. I think that's the way to go.
So his journey from combat to cattle ranching is more of a career shift. It's purpose, and we've talked about purpose, over and over on this show, and it's so important. For other transitioning veterans, his story may be a beacon reminding them that there's life and impact, even in loss and beyond military service. And whether it's entrepreneurship, agriculture, advocacy, these stories prove that your story doesn't end when the uniform comes off. And Stacy, you did an episode on veteran farmers for your show After Action, right?
Yes, I had, there were so many veteran farmers out there, but I had Devon Goodwin on the show. He's got his own little farm in North Carolina. I had Steve Jimenez, who was the founder of Hives for Heroes, helping veterans establish their own like beekeeping outfits. And then Karen Rudder and her husband.
There's a lot of buzz around that one.
Too. That was really well played.
So sorry.
So Karen Rudder and her husband have Project Victory Gardens, where they bring veterans to their farm to teach them how to pursue a post-military farming career. It's a really popular thing. The majority of the farmers were military veterans, and that is not the case anymore. And our farmers are aging out, and veterans are now starting to take their place again. And there are a lot of incentives from both the VA and the USGA. So for all you alphas out there who are sitting back and thinking, I don't have a green thumb, you can do any kind of farming, whether it's plant crops, grow crops, livestock. You can grow flowers. That's farming. Anyway, there's a lot of really fun advantages out there. And there's a thing called agritherapy, and I truly believe it. As somebody who has a horse farm, my horses are wonderful for my mental health, and they do great things. And I highly encourage y'all to look into these programs where you can start up your own little farming biz on the side and from your own backyard with a beehive or a raised garden bed. So I'll have those links in the show notes as well for all the things that,
and the information for your show for the episode that has these farmers on it, right? Because I need to watch that one
episode. That's right. Yeah, you can watch it on PBS, and it's available on iTunes, Apple TV, rather, Amazon, wherever you watch your shows.
Yeah. I just want to say though, and we mentioned this before, but Veterans Day, we support each other. We go into the military, and it is a service. It doesn't feel like that sometimes, but it is a service. And the reason we really truly know that is because when we get out, that's what we ache to do, is to serve, is to still be a part of veterans' lives. And so you can do that by being a part of veteran service organizations like the American Legion. Get involved. There's some really, really big stuff happening. This is whatever idea, if you haven't been to an American Legion in a while, I'm telling you, you are missing out. It has grown in some really, really beautiful ways. There's a lot of young men and women that are being, given leadership positions and things like that. And the American Legion is so open arms right now, and it's incredible. There's a lot of this is a great way, even if you join and don't get active, it's so important that when we go to DC to talk to, some of these politicians that are making all these decisions for us, that they know that we speak with a loud voice. We speak for each other, and we're not going to let this stuff go. You joining gives us that power. So you can have a measurable impact, not just today, but all year long.
Hey, as the holidays approach, now that we're into November and you look into the holidays, think about maybe gifting the veteran in your life an American Legion membership if they're not a member yet. So that's a nice little stocking stuffer. And it has two good deeds. They get something, a family of American Legionnaires, and you're also giving to what Joe said, what they're doing in DC for veterans as well, advocacy work. Alphas, thanks for listening. Don't forget that we are now hosted on Spotify. You can find our audio and video versions of our podcast. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can rate us, give us all the stars, give us a really good comments. If you've got some feedback, you can email that to us. You can also find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever all the best podcasts are hosted. And of course, we're number one. Subscribe to our newsletter and send us mail and guest recommendations at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. Happy
Joe
veterans.
Rogan, we're coming for you. No, not really. Riblets. We're coming for you, and we're bringing riblets. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks.